Okay, so what I want to talk about in this video is how, let's say for example, you've made a lot of progress, you've been doing the graduated exposure, you're starting to feel more confident, you're able to pee in situations you hadn't imagined you'd be able to, and then there can be a little bit of anxiety around the prospect of your paruresis coming back. Now, the way to deal with this is to accept that it may come back. If you kind of rest on your laurels and you get complacent and you're not going out, you're not saying yes to social situations and you're in your comfort zone a little more often, which can happen when you've made a big leap in your recovery, that can happen. There can be that kind of fear as you go to get out there again, that it's going to come back. Now, allow it to come back. Give it free rein to come back. Because if you're fearful that it's going to come back, again, that gives the power to the paruresis. It gives the power to that voice in the head that says, what if I can't pee? I'm feeling nervous. You give power to that, so allow that voice to show up. If, for example, you're feeling good, happy-go-lucky, yeah, I don't really need to worry about my paruresis anymore, then you go to the bathroom and you find yourself locking up and you're thinking to yourself, no, it can't be. I thought I dealt with it. I thought it was dead. If you behave that way, it's just going to you're just going to lock up. And not just lock up, but you're going to be disappointed, frustrated, ruminating over it, beating yourself up. If it shows up, just act with indifference and keep reaffirming all the behaviours that got you to that point of confidence in the first place. So, as I mentioned in the last video, I've not had a misfire I've had about maybe 3 misfires in the past 2 or 3 years. Even so, if I go to the toilet or if I go out there into the world, I accept that it's a possibility that it could show up. And very rarely it does. Those instances when I had misfires, I probably didn't really need the bathroom as much as I thought. So give it free rein. It can show up when it wants to show up. So you want to treat it as though it's that voice, that doubting voice, that critical voice that criticizes you and makes you hypervigilant. Treat it as though it's a little man getting up on stage. Now imagine that this little man gets up on stage, gives his little song and a dance, the usual routine, the usual dialogue. When it does that, if we engage it and we argue with it or we identify ourselves with it, it's like giving it a round of applause. So we're giving it reason to show up again in future. So the way you want to behave is to act with indifference. When it gets up on stage and it gives its song and a dance, you just acknowledge it for what it is. Say hello to it. Hi, you're looking good today. I'm going to allow you to go along with whatever it is you want to go along with. It's your show. I'm going to just carry on with the program. So if you don't get panicky over it, then it sees no fun in showing up. But when it shows up, if we get panicky, it thinks to itself, ooh, I showed up and they went wild, and it gets back into the queue of all the other voices. So if it does come back, you want to treat it like a dull sequel. You know how a movie comes out and the first one's really good and then they make a sequel but they don't really put much effort into it and usually, you know, a lot of the times the sequel doesn't live up to the first one. So treat it like a rubbish sequel. When it shows up, it's like, oh hey, yeah, I know who you are, I know what you're about, I've dealt with you in the past, it's not a problem, just do your thing, and I'm just going to be here doing my thing. Treat it that way and it will leave you alone. If when it comes back it's like The Empire Strikes Back Part 2, if it comes back and we play out the old panicky, you see, it's okay if panic arises, you want to watch that as well, be the observer of it. It's like, oh, there we go, there's that response in the body, I've witnessed that many times before, I know what that's about, I was expecting that to happen when you showed up. Treat it in that way and you'll be able to transcend it. What does that mean, transcend it? It just means to go beyond it, to go through it. So treat each voice that pops up with indifference, just acknowledge that it's there. Now this takes practice and you need to be in the present moment, and I'm going to explore this further in future videos. So just wanted to make this video to let you know that that can happen when you've had success. There's that fear that it's going to show up. Let it show up. Give it free rein and you take away its power. Hope you got something out of that. Catch you on the next video.